Welcome to the channel. Thank you everyone for tuning in. On today's video, as you can see, I've got the brand new release from Christoper Ward. Christoper Ward initially released the 12 at a 40mm size. Since then, they've gone to release the C60 Atoll 300, and they've also released the new consort bracelet on the C63 GMT models and the C63 36mm, as well as striking new color options, especially that mulberry red or the cherry red. That dial really does pop, and I'm trying to get my hands on one of those to review. But today I'm going to be looking at this 36mm version of the 12. The embargo lifted on the 24th of August past 10 a.m, which allows me to show this watch to everybody watching. I did do a quick show on YouTube, give you some brief specifications about this. So here it is, and it looks stunning. Of course, it looks very similar to the Tissot PRX, and the 40mm was also compared to the Tissot PRX. And Christoper Ward have gone to town on this watch. There's so much micro detailing present, which I hope to show you guys throughout the review, with macro shots and all sorts. Literally every element, every facet of this watch, every surface of this watch has been touched with micro detailing. And it is astounding what they've done. Of course, with these integrated bracelet watches, these are a throwback to the 70s. And Christoper Ward just basically, wants to bring that luxury element to such a vintage design, and I think they have succeeded. They've brought us 4 different dial options. I'll put them up on screen for you guys, but the newest color is this type of green. I don't know what exactly they call it, but this is the type of green that they've brought out. And yeah, these are all funky colors now from Christoper Ward, from being a brand that was very, some might say, boring or traditional, should we say, and very conservative. They've really gone out there since the Bel Canto and all the other releases. They really are trying to reach out to a whole wider consumer base, and especially with this watch, it does have a more of a jewelry watch appeal than anything else. So let's go through some specifications and dimensions for you guys. Specs wise, this has the usual specifications on the Christoper Ward series. You've got your sapphire crystal, you've got a full stainless steel case. The watch does run the SW200 movement. We'll look into that a little bit later. That this does not have a ghost position, which is awesome. So it's a true dateless dial configuration. As well as the movement, you've got 100 meters of water resistance. They've opted to go for a snap-on case back with this one, even though it does look like a screw down, but they've chosen that to make sure the watch is thin enough. And this watch's dimensions are amazing. When I go through them in a bit, you'll see what I mean. In terms of price, this is at £10,050. I'll put relevant conversion on screen as well. And I think, for such an immaculately produced watch with so much detailing going on, it's a very reasonable price. And as are most of Christoper Ward's models, if you try to compare, like for like, spec for spec on any other high street Swiss brand, for £1,000 retail, you would be hard pressed to find anything that comes close to what Christoper Ward are willing to offer. Dimensions wise, these are Christoper Ward's readings, and yeah, it's not too different. The diameter is 36mm. However, the thickness is not 9.95 as stated. It's close to 10.4, which is not a lot, but these are the correct figures. Lug to lug is 40.8, measuring at the bottom of this lug. However, if you combine the total lug to lug, because these links aren't female, you get to 48mm, which is still more than adequate. It's still very small. Your integrated link is 22.5mm. It does taper down beautifully to 16mm, all closed off with a beautiful butterfly clasp. And as I stated, it does run the Sellita SW200, and this one is running amazingly accurate. It's close to perfect, 0-0 throughout, with a very high amplitude of 300 plus. And I don't know where they got the weight from at 56 grams. Maybe that's just the watch head, but this one, size for my wrist, missing around 4 small links, is 110 grams. So the weight is very well spread out, very well balanced. So I do want to get straight into this review. The main thing about this watch is obviously the thing that looks at you straight in the face is that dial. They've got a beautiful textured dial, and the texture is close to sort of a weaving pattern. However, if you look a bit closer, you'll find that it's a bunch of Christoper Ward flags into that dial. And texture dials are the thing. I think, looking at Seiko, what they produce, for example, a lot of brands are trying to really push on their dial making abilities, which is going to be always good to see, because you can get some really fantastic textures out there. Now, moving on a bit closer, as I stated earlier in the intro of the video, that this watch is full of amazing micro detailing. You look at the logo at the 12, you got this linear brushing just on that, and just alone on the logo, Christoper Ward had to do a bit of a mammoth task in order to engineer this piece of applied logo. As well as the hour markers, you can see they are these tapered dagger style indices, beautifully finished, as most Christoper Ward watches that I've looked at. You've got linear brushing across the center, and you've got beveled edges which are highly polished to give you some amazing light play. And that finishing goes across also to the handset. Super sharp cut hands, tapered hour hand, minute hand, and you've got that brushing down the center and the polished edges. The second hand on this one is also brushed, so again, that's a lot of attention to detail. It does really help the light play around with the handset, and that brushed second hand definitely does make a bit of a difference. You'll also see minimalist design on the dial. You've just got black text stating automatic just above the 6. Plain and simple, and again with that dateless aesthetic. I'm totally down for this dateless aesthetic. I love it. Yes, sometimes you will get caught when you need to check the date, but then just reach into your pocket and check your phone. But in terms of preserving pure beauty on a watch, dateless designs are the way forward. Let's look at the bezel. It's a 12-sided bezel, and this bezel has had 3 different types of finishing, so it's not just a usual static bezel. We start off at the bottom of the bezel, where you'll find that bottom piece has been sandblasted. Then the actual 12 sides are mirror polished, and the circular bit at the top is finished in a hairline brushing. Impeccable, looking at the consistency, dead straight lines. It's very beautifully done. Now, this design on the case, again, it's an exception. Literally every facet is finished with some polished details. The transition lines are super crisp and super clean. Polishing is perfection, and the brushing is that hairline, showing you all the beautiful grain in there. Now, even when we look at the crown guards, they have the same type of finishing, so every side has been finished the same. Where you've got the brushing, then the polish highlights, you've got your Allen screws in the end, and of course your Christoper Ward logo branded crown. The crown itself, kind of small, is quite polished and smooth. However, it is okay to operate. You can really get to grips with it, but you have to squeeze a bit, and then with that single pop, you can hack the movement and of course change the time. As I said, there is no ghost position, which is really good to see, considering it is SW200 movement, and they've managed to give us a true dateless configuration. Now you will see slithers of Loom applied on the hour markers. The Loom is BGW9, and let's see how bright this Loom is. Due to the finer hour markers and the handset, you've got slightly small slithers of Loom, which is why you won't get that punchy explosion of BGW9 Loom. However, for this style of watch, it is more than adequate. There's no patchiness at all. The Loom is really well applied, and as you can see, very, very visible. Now let's move on to the second best thing about the watch, and that is the bracelet, joined onto the case. So they count as one thing technically. This integrated bracelet, integrated beautifully into the case. Just have a look at that uniformity of that brushing. Everything is very linear, super straight. I mean, with this type of brushing, especially when it's hairline and you can see the grain, it's very easy to spot defects. But this is pure perfection, and every link has been finished to the same level as the rest of the watch. Wherever you've got facets, they have been polished beautifully to give you that chocolate bar appearance. On every edge of that bracelet, which is exposed to your skin, is chamfered nicely and also polished to give it that very smooth finishing. Amazing articulation as well. Of course, screwing links, and the bracelet itself at the back does have those twin quick release bars, because this watch is available on a rubber strap, which is for around $8.50, but I'll stick with the bracelet, because the bracelet is always a better option. It just makes the whole watch really stand out. Now on wrist, the watch again highlights its flawless nature. It fits perfectly. My wrist size is 6.5 inches. That 36mm dial sits spot in the middle. And also with the links, even though they're not female end links, you can see up to at least 3 links are touching the side of my wrist, so that is hugging that wrist. Beautiful light play across all those brushed surfaces and the polished highlights that you can see here. And the biggest debate this watch is going to create is that 36mm. Now Christoper Ward did really think about this. They've got all sorts of opinions, and this is probably what will divide most of the consumer base. Is 36, is it too small? Is it a female watch size? Or I'm happy with the 40mm. What I find with this particular style of case, and this is my opinion, a 40mm case is just too flat, it's just too large, and it doesn't sit comfortably. I find that with the the PRX style cases, and I'm not really a fan of that. But with the 36mm down for this 6.5 inch wrist is perfect. A touch small, yes. This is why Christoper Ward state that this is not a man's watch or a woman's watch. They call it agender, so it's basically unisex. So anyone who likes it can wear it. It's going to be a subjective thing on the side, heavily depending on your wrist size. So that's my 2 pence on the Christoper Ward, the 12 to 36 millimeter. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, guys. What do you think about this watch? And as always, I'll see you on the next video. Thank you guys for watching.